Like I said, being here on Zoom, I think all of us have been on some kind of platform, right? Whether it's Zoom or Google Meets or whatever it is, and knowing how to present ourselves and has become more and more important as we move forward in this new, I don't know, what is it, a digital age, whatever it is. But with that, we are very excited today to have Angela Forster from Tiny Studios and Shaun Chapman, who is a local audio engineer and here in Inglewood, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about our Zoom presence. So Angela, take it away.
Thank you. It's kind of funny, after 20 years of being behind the camera, it's kind of weird now to be on this end of the camera. And, you know, doing a virtual presentation about virtual presentation is, I kind of did it to myself. So I have art directed for television, film, and different media for decades. And then when we all started going on Zoom and I would sit through Zoom meetings, I think to myself, holy cow, what's going on with this crazy quilt of ideas, these people, all these things, fatigue and trying to get attention. And I realized that there's a lot of relationships between when you art direct for television and when we are art directing for ourselves. Like I'm looking at Amanda right now, and I could look at Amanda all day long because she's got this gorgeous background. She's giving me 1/3, 2/3. Nancy, if she didn't have a light switch out of her head, would be perfect. And I could go for that. And when I told people I was going to be doing this presentation, the number one thing I got was, why the heck would I care? I'm just trying to check in. I'm just trying to have my attendance taken. And it does matter, because 65% of the time when you're doing your Zoom guru magic, 65% of those people are going to be multitasking. They're going to check email. They're going to check text. They're going to get a cup of coffee. They're going to go potty. And you want to keep them engaged on your conversation. 20 minutes, neuroscience tells us, is about as long as people can focus on one thought. And you could sit in a room with kids, and every 20 minutes, you'll see one have to go potty, one will have to get water, one will sharpen a pencil. Go to any conference, 20 minutes. I'll get my cup of coffee. I'm going to go potty. So there are these things in communication theory that do matter. And so the misconception is that it doesn't matter if it's just Zoom. It matters, because if you're just taking attendance for class, I just need to show that I'm there. Well, let's say you want to create a relationship with your instructor at some point, a professional engagement. If they don't see you, they don't engage with you, you're just a name, they're not going to call to mind your name. If it's just casual coffee with the chamber, well, if I'm sitting down here, you know, who's gonna me? Because I'm like, I'm not engaging myself. So it does matter when either you're pitching a concept, or you're defending a budget line, you're sharing a big idea, or you're showing just respect for a colleague who's presenting themselves. Those are all viable reasons, because you're developing goodwill. And the whole purpose of what I want to try to impart today is that you're trying to make yourself in this weird digital realm more authentic, more engaging, more trustworthy, and maintain that attention, because we're all like trout. If it's shiny, we're going to go look all over the place, and we're not going to stay on task. So when you go to present to people, you're going to think of your audience, your industry, and your goal. Who's your audience? Like, I'm among friends here, so I know I can be a little sassy and a little funny. I also come from the world of television, so I know I can also be a little more gregarious. If I was in the world of finance or legal actions or family counseling, I would take different roles. I would take different positions. My industry, does my industry support humor? Does my industry need humor? I need to ask those questions as well. Is there a dress code that follows my industry? And then my goal, what am I trying to do? Am I just trying to get my visual and then them engaged? Am I trying to present an idea that's really complicated? I have to think of all those things when I consider what happens around my face. And right now I got a lot of things happening behind my face. So in the world of visual communication, you may not care one iota about it, but it matters, because subconsciously I am looking at David, and David's in a sweet shop. Now, I know I have some background about David. David is the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. So of course he's going to support a local industry. So his temporary background makes sense. If I'm presenting to you with a bunch of candy behind me, you're going to take that candy and what you know about me and make it meaningful. So backgrounds, composition, all these things help make a communication happen, whether you want it to or not. It doesn't matter. So if I'm on a monitor, and I know that my audience is on a monitor, I need to think about that as my device, my location. If my monitor is going to be seen in the NBC News, then my monitor can be full of all kinds of stuff because my audience is going to be watching it from their television. They're only going to see my world. If I'm on monitor in Zoom and there's a crazy quilt of ideas, you're going to get nauseous with all this stuff going on. If I'm presenting in a boardroom and I've got the head of Oz going and I'm like 50-inch wide, I scare the pants off my audience. Just like if I'm back here, I have just disengaged from you guys and I've melted into my background. So I have zero presence, zero authenticity, and zero presentation. So I don't want to do that. So it matters. I want to make sure that things like my camera is not good. Nothing drives people more than that, because if you're looking at me for an hour and all you've got are these bad horizontals, you're going to kill me. It's going to drive you nuts. Just like me with a set laptop looking down or looking up. Shaun, you're sitting pretty low. Your energy's pretty low. I know you're a sound guy, so I'll forgive you, but that's kind of what people will think. If you're sitting in certain ways, they'll read your body language in that frame. So I would recommend that you sit up. I'd recommend you think about those horizontals and take a moment to look at what lines you have beside you, around you, and make sure they're not sticking out of your head in a funky way. Or make sure that you're locked in compositionally, because right now I have a pretty decent composition. I'm engaging in the rule of thirds. My body is occupying 1/3 of the monitor. If I was vertical and I was doing a Facebook or a cell phone, I'd make sure my head was the upper half, filling it up, not giving headroom, because that's just annoying. You sit there with my mom for Thanksgiving and you just want to move her phone. Body position, I'm dead on. I'm square. What if I'm a little bit angled? Do I feel more approachable or less approachable? Do I need to be an authority? Do I need to look like I'm talking about something meaningful? Or do I want to have a little casual conversation because it's coffee? Maybe I do a little 3/4 for that. We do that in TV a lot. You'll see when you watch the news, there's a little bit of an angle on the shoulder, and that just makes people feel more inviting. Now, I've given you guys kind of a wacky background, and now I've just cut half my information. And when I have things in my background, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to distract you from what I'm saying and me as an authority, or they're going to say, oh, look what she's got. Oh, there's like 4 of them back there. Gosh, I wonder what those are. Those are telling you, I know what I'm talking about because somebody in my industry has said, oh, look at that. So maybe if you have anything in the background, it reinforces your industry. It reinforces your acquisition of knowledge. It helps set you up as an authority. Otherwise, if it's distracting, people, like I said, they're trout, they're gold, they're shiny. There's a lot of white going on back there. I want myself to be the brightest thing you see. So therefore, now I'm actually focusing in on my words. So now I'm not trying to say, hey, trust me, I'm a designer. Now I'm saying, hey, what am I saying? I have given nothing in my background to affect or distract. Now my background is what happens in television a lot in a newscast, which is a mat. It's framing and matting the conversation. In this case, am the conversation. And I want to do nothing that distracts from my conversation. This is all secondary supporting material. My lighting, notice I don't have any harsh lights on me. There's no strong shadows, no casts. There's a thing called 3-point lighting. The sun, in my case, I actually have a true blue sun coming right at me on a 45. And that sun is going to be the brightest thing I have. You can do whatever you want, but the sun is going to be your brightest light. It's going to fill you in. If it casts you shadows, you're going to do a fill, and a fill is going to be a softer light. In my case, I have clear story windows that are north face. Guess what? I have this beautiful, nice light happening. Nothing you can do with those little round halo lamps are going to compete with the sun, no matter what. And you've sat through those calls where somebody has the sun behind them and all they are is silhouetted, which is fine if you're in a witness protection program, but not so fine if you're trying to help people. You notice when I had my doors open? I mean, okay. Are you going to see me, or are you going to see Ace Hardware? Are you going to see me, or are you going to see Craft Central? So these objects are extremely distracting. At least I find them distracting. I wouldn't trust them. So therefore, I am going to very simply, in an economy of scale, give myself a little interest, and I'm going to be 3 to 4 feet in front of my background. So I'm not casting any shadows on the background. I'm not going to be up against my background because I have shadows. Not only do I feel diminished, I am now pressed up against like that. That's not very good either. All right, so now I know. All right, I've been practicing. Nancy's my witness. I make her sit through this. Now, David's using a prefab background. I would be very cautious about prefab backgrounds. If you're going to use them, once again, make them meaningful, make them pertinent to your industry or to a metaphor you're trying to support in your conversation. And David's, I think I would recommend to David to come about another 2 feet in front of his wall and pick a wall that has, no, towards me, and separate yourself more, because you're getting that weird funkiness because what's behind you is really close in value to yourself. So I would say use backgrounds if they are authentic. If they're not authentic, they're going to, on a subconscious level, take your confidence and your audience away. It's going to go somewhere else and it's not going to stick on you. So there we see David. Now David's got the camera looking straight up his nose to his ceiling, and that's better. Now he's going to have to lower his chair down a little bit more. So because you're going to want to look on the level. It's okay to look a little up, but there's a reason why studio cameras in a film situation are lower and everybody's raised on a dais. So the camera comes at you, not at a funky angle, which is, you're going to have to just think about your monitor as a camera. Now, if you want to do a background, custom backgrounds are great. Keep them simple. There's an opportunity. I'm looking over here at my space. I could even put a little tiny studio logo on a custom background. I could put contact information on a custom background. I've seen Judy Brown do this frequently with hers. That was super smart right off the bat. She knocked out a custom background. But once again, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to show yourself as a confident realtor, or are you presenting numbers to a client? If you're presenting numbers to a client, maybe you don't want to take them to Acapulco or Disneyland. I worked with one client doing this sort of thing and walking her through. She's a travel agent and she had all these things out, but she's not a travel agent for family. So we took out the picture of the family. She doesn't do New York, she does Southeast Asia. So we took out the I Love New York sign that was behind her and created a custom background within her own space. Just a few more minutes while I still have you for that 20-minute sweet spot before you go. Let's talk a little bit about wardrobe. And this is going to be industry specific. I'm an artist. I can get away with a little funkiness. I can wear flashy colors, but is this the best time to wear a flashy color? You know, am I trying to distract you from something? So maybe distracting you with that is not a great idea. Okay. So instead, I'll put on this great man's confident shirt, but let's take a look at this man's confident shirt. Raise your hand if you're noticing of something called a moire. Moire being a tight pattern that vibrates and it makes everybody nauseous. So if you're wearing anything that has tiny checks, tiny stripes, tiny patterns, you might love it, but your audience is going to hate it because they're going to want to throw up every time they see it. So you're not going to do the tiny pattern thing. You're going to go calm solids. When in doubt, go calm and solids. And you know what? Watch your headspace, because things sticking out of your head, whether it's artwork, whether it's a hairpiece, whether it's a plant, is really distracting. You never want to have things sticking out of your head in any of those spaces. A lot of times people will tell you, oh, put a plant in there, it'll make it soft and green. Well, only if you are a landscape architect or a counselor and you're trying to create a mood. I've heard people say, put up artwork. Well, have you ever seen two pairs of eyes in a space and how hard that is to know who to look at? So it's better, better, better when in this world to keep it simple. Your clothing could be simple. If it's dark, like Nancy has this beautiful cowl on, and if she was presenting, I would put a little light on that cowl so she separates and it opens up. I have a dark chair. Now I'm in front of it with a light color. You're not distracted. You're focusing on my conversation. And raise your hand if you feel like a sense of, now that I've shed the exoskeleton of stuff. And I really wanted you to see about those sorts of those things. If you're going to wear black, black takes you anywhere. Shaun's wearing black. I would highly recommend that Shaun has something lighter behind him so that his black pops out. Otherwise, it just becomes a solid mass. And I would love to see a little bit of space for him because he's going to speak next, and that will help him create more confidence and authority in what he's doing. All right, before I leave it over to Shaun, I have a few pro tips. And the first thing is staring contest. You, when you present or when you listen, are going to win a staring contest. You're going to look at that little green light 75% of the time. And you're going to look at that time, that especially when you're going to make a big point, you're given a number. Judy, you're telling them that they've just had a closing time delay by 2 weeks because the numbers aren't working. And you're going to want to be sympathetic, and you're not going to want to look down here, even if you have a laptop, because all of a sudden now you're not looking at them when you're sharing news. You're looking at all the 12 people in your monitor, but you should be looking at them. Sticky notes. Get sticky. If you have key points that you're trying to make, you're going to put them on sticky notes on both sides of your camera. That will help reinforce looking up. That will help you make sure you didn't miss any point. I had too many words, otherwise I would have done sticky notes, but then I would have talked for hours. It reinforces looking up, it reinforces your eye contact, and that's super important in this non-organic, digitally mediated space. You're trying to make a connection, and people will look at eyes like that. That's the first thing babies recognize is an eye, pair of eyes. Like static cling, you're not going to move. You're not going to swivel in your chair. You know, when you're talking, you're not going to do this. If you find yourself doing that, change your chair out for a static chair. You're not going to swing back and forth or rock, because once again, that disengages. That shows a casualness that you can't afford in this artificial environment. It will help avoid miscommunication and misdirection. And one more big tip is learn from the pros. If you really want to understand about just presentation on a mediated screen, turn off the audio and watch a nightly news. And watch how the camera positions them, how they're 1/3 of a frame, 1/3 of the actual mass. You'll notice that there'll be a little bit of space to one side or the other. You'll notice they're not dead on, dead square. You'll notice there's a little bit of an relaxing. Turn off audio because audio will distract you from looking at wardrobe cues, looking at composition of the camera, looking at camera angles, and looking at body language. When you turn that on, there's a reason. And I am so frustrated with this reason because I could do all the most amazing things in the world, give you the best lighting tips and composition, but Shaun wins the ticket because audio blows it all away. You guys will put up with a blown out light on David's forehead, but you will not forgive David for having crap audio, because 90% of a narrative, a story, will come through audio. And with that, I'm going to go mute, and I'm going to give it over to Shaun.
Thanks, Angela. I definitely learned a lot from that. Yeah, and I will forgive David for having blown out lighting. All right. Yeah, so my name is Shaun Chapman. I am an audio engineer in Inglewood. As you can see, I'm actually in my bedroom, which is my current studio. I don't tell everybody that, but I mean, you can kind of tell. You can also see the other audio stuff like the bass guitar and the sound foam, but yeah. Yeah, so what I do mostly is edit podcasts, I record bands, I run sound for live events, I teach mixing lessons, I book and promote shows and other stuff like that. I've been working at audio for about 10 years. Pretty new to Zoom. I mean, I think about a year ago is when I started using this. Probably that's the case with a lot of people. And this is my first time giving like a presentation like this. So thanks for bearing with me. Yeah, so like Angela said, just like with video, if you want your presentation to, if you just want to seem professional, then you need good audio. It's imperative that your audio quality is at least decent. I mean, most people won't notice if it's not perfect. And that depends on kind of what you're doing. If you are recording it, or if it is a podcast, and a lot of people do podcasts at this point over Zoom, you know, then obviously you're going to want to make sure it's pretty good. It can be confusing to figure out at first, as far as, you know, what to have, like software and hardware wise and all that to make the audio sound great. But, you know, there are simple setups that you can use. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to recommend some gear that you could potentially have, particularly if you want to do a podcast to promote your business. It's a lot of things, you know, a lot of people are doing that. Podcasts are huge for that, and it's really easy to do, surprisingly, via Zoom. So 1 second. So this is on my website here. It's kind of hidden, but I will share this in the chat once I switch it over. Actually, I'll just do that now. Or not. All right. Well, anyway, so, you know, you can use your computer's microphone, but I don't recommend it. I recommend that you get an actual, you know, external microphone. And, you know, it's not the only thing you have to have. There's some other things you have to purchase. So here's some recommendations that I have. This is the Shure SM58. It's only about $100. It sounds good. It sounds flat. It's a nice sound. It's a music industry standard microphone. And if you get that mic, you also have to have an interface which goes between the mic to your computer. So, and it gives you some gain and all that. And you can plug your headphones into it. But if you don't want to go that route, the Blue Yeti is one thing that a lot of people are using. There are also cheaper Blue mics, and the Blue mics are USB mics, so they can go straight into your computer. I don't think they sound quite as good, but a lot of podcasters swear by them. They're about $100 and something bucks. And, you know, the Yeti doesn't need a mic stand, but if you get at the SM58 or something, you will need a mic stand. And I will share this with you, and you can actually click through on these and you can purchase them from the link. I recommend using headphones, and I see nobody here right now is wearing headphones, especially if you have an external mic. You might get some echo if you don't, and it's just going to be better monitoring. It's going to make it sound better if you use headphones. And I recommend these Audio-Technica headphones. They're kind of for like $100, they're really good quality. XLR cables, those are what you have in between your microphone and your interface. So you need those if you have a non-USB mic. And if you have a microphone, inevitably, that's a good step up, but then you're going to want to think about, like, how does it sound in your room? You can use a mic shield. Like, for example, if you get a condenser microphone, those sound really great, but you hear everything in your room. Microphones like the SM58, those are called dynamic cardioid microphones. So it's directional. It only picks up what it's pointed at pretty much, but you can reinforce that with a mic shield so that your mic isn't picking up a lot of external sounds that you don't want it to. Another thing, a lot of rooms have a lot of echo, right? If you're in a pretty empty room, or a room with a lot of hard surfaces, and you can mitigate that with sound panels. And this is just foam that you hang on your wall. But also you can mitigate it with furniture. You can put rugs in your room. You can hang up, blankets, anything to get rid of the echo. And also the mic shield will help you with that. And I know we're talking about Zoom audio here, but in case you do want to record, and through Zoom, unfortunately, the actual Zoom audio does not sound very good. It's hyper compressed. It uses in order to not glitch, and it has to do this kind of, but it uses masking, which frequency masking, it cuts out certain frequencies if it overlaps with other things, and it just kind of, it doesn't sound super great. So if you can record on your own end, and then put that together later, there are some softwares like Audacity that are free, or something like Logic Pro, which is like $200 if you have a Mac. Yeah, so I'm gonna unshare my screen here. Give me a sec. All right, and I'm going to show you kind of the difference between using your computer mic and using a different mic. So I'm going into Preferences, and under Audio, I see right now that I have my interface selected. So it's coming through this microphone. This microphone is an EV RE320. It's kind of based on a classic broadcast microphone. It's a little bit more expensive. It's $200 to $300. But let's see, now I'm going to select my computer's microphone, which is the built-in microphone. And as you can see, it sounds different. It sounds a little bit more echoey. It doesn't sound quite as crisp, maybe, and clear. And I have another microphone set up. I have the SM58 set up, which is a good starter mic. Like I said before, it's about $100. So this is the SM58. So not maybe quite as crisp as the EV, but you know, still sounds really good. And some other tips, you know, about dialing in your environment, which is kind of important. Just like, you know, Angela was talking about dialing in the visual of your environment. You should also think about the audio end of that. So if you have like an AC unit or something, HVAC, turn that off if you can, because you know, it will make quite a noise, and that's a very like low end noise, and it can be distracting. And especially if you're recording like we are now, you want to, you know, just turn that off. You know, like I said before, getting rid of echo with foam or furniture or whatever. I've never tried this program, but I've been hearing about it recently. It's called Crisp with a K. That is supposed to eliminate background noise, and I can't speak to, you know, whether it's actually good or not. There, I just shared the recommendations for gear in the chat. Yeah, I can't say whether it's good or not, but it's worth a try too, because what it's called, so if you have software and you have what's called plugins for your software, and that's different effects you can use. And one of those is called a gate. And what that means is that the gate is closed and then it opens up when the audio gets to a certain volume so that the quiet noises don't come through at all, if that makes sense. Also, you know, I would try to record in a room that doesn't have a lot of outside noise, you know, from outside, maybe like car alarms and birds or whatever, like some rooms, you know, a room that doesn't have a window, or, you know, if you have that option. If you don't always have that option, you might need to record wherever you can, but if you do, just think about it. Another thing, if you are recording from Zoom, that's a good thing to do. If you go into your Zoom preferences and you go to the recording tab on the left, you see a selection here that you can, a box you can tick that says record a separate audio file for each participant. And that will be good, especially if you're hiring out an editor, which is one thing that I do. That way, because everyone's voice sounds different. So that way each voice can be EQ'd a different way for their own specific voice. It's better to have, and in case like one person's louder than the other, then you can fix that if you have that selected. And, you know, if you do want to record just in Zoom, if you look down at the bottom, there's a little record button there. Yeah, and if you are going to record, I very highly recommend that you save very frequently, because, you know, if your system crashes, something crashes and you lose it, that's no good. And I also recommend that you name your files and put them, name them something that you would really remember and put it somewhere obvious, like in a folder that says Zoom recording, so that you don't lose it, because that happens. Yeah, and, you know, it's really important to also back up your files regularly. Yeah, so another thing is when your audio is coming in, you want to make sure not to overdrive your system. You can kind of see, like if you go to the Zoom preferences and go to audio, excuse me, it shows you the signal, right? It's like in green right now. I'm talking and I see my signal, it's in green. But if I talk like way too loud or get up on it, I don't know if you guys heard that, but it kind of distorts. Doesn't sound very good. So you kind of have to, and that's called clipping. That's just overdriving it. It doesn't sound good in a digital, you know, software like Zoom. Yeah, so other things I would recommend, if you just want to learn how to get your audio really good, watch YouTube videos. YouTube videos have been very helpful for me with learning pretty much anything. So watch as many videos as you can until you know, feel like you understand it. Like I can give you some tips today, but I can't tell you everything really. Just it's good to practice as well. You can reach out to me if you have help. If you need help with something with audio, I don't charge people for just advice and stuff. So you can send me an email or whatever, and I'll help you. And I don't know if this is touched on or not, but make sure your internet connection is good if you can. Or you're going to get little glitches, and it's not going to sound very good. And looks like everybody here understands this, but mute yourself when you're not talking. Before you start a call, it's good to make sure your voice is doing okay too. So, drink some water to make sure that your voice isn't dry. You're not going to be too hoarse. Don't eat dairy products so you don't get all phlegmy. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's about all I have for you guys today. I'd be happy to answer as many questions as you want to ask.
Great. Well, thank you both, Angela and Shaun.
Thank you, David.
We'll do, thank you guys so much. I do have a question, but I'll just let everybody know what we'll do is if you do have a question, I have found